to the point where, by the 1990s, we had some 400,000 Israeli illegal settlers. And today, despite Obama, and despite what Obama said in his famous Cairo speech, calling on Israel to halt all further expansion of the settlers, of the settlements, the Israelis are doing that. They are continuing to Judaize East Jerusalem, which was traditionally the Palestinian Arab section of Jerusalem. Continue to take over Palestinian homes in East Jerusalem, expelling the residents, for generations. It is an appalling situation. And one can go on and on about this, but I don't want to go on too long. You see, people often compare Israel with South African apartheid. And if you look at the situation of the Israeli-Palestinian population, a million Palestinian Arabs living in Israel, citizens of the State of Israel, who do suffer, systematic discrimination in housing, employment, education, and so on. So, there are aspects of the apartheid regime in South Africa which do resemble certain aspects of the situation of the Palestinians. But really, you see, in South Africa, under apartheid, the black working class, the black South African working class, was super exploited. But it was super exploited, but because it was exploited, it was part of the society. In other words, the white colonial South African people needed the black South African working class. They needed them to produce the wealth. So they were part of the society, even though they were super exploited. Similarly with Northern Ireland, you see, the Catholics in Northern Ireland, who were a third of the population, they were working and they were exploited, like their Protestant brothers and sisters. They were part of our society, even though they suffered terrible discrimination and oppression. The situation of Palestinians is not like that. It's not like either South Africa or Northern Ireland. From the beginning of Zionist colonization, early in the 20th century, the aim of Zionism was always to exclude the Palestinians, not to allow them to be part of Zionist society, which is why they were expelled in 1948. And you see, the Jewish Zionist employers in the early days would have liked to employ Palestinians. Labor was cheaper, but the Jewish trade union movement, the Histadrut, the Zionist trade union movement, forbade Jewish employers from employing Palestinians. Zionist employers only had the right to employ Jewish workers, Zionist workers. And when Zionist settlers took over land, what they would do, they would buy land, tracts of land, this is before 1948, the 20s and 30s, they would buy a piece of land from a Palestinian absentee landlord who lived in Beirut or somewhere, who was super exploiting Palestinian tenant farmers. And the Zionists would buy that land from the absentee landlord and then expel the Palestinians from the land. And even the most left-wing Zionist, kibbutz, collective settlement, would engage in this practice, buying land and immediately expelling the Palestinian tenant farmers who've been cultivating the land for generations. So that's the nature of Zionism. And what it means is, you see, that the Palestinians don't have the military or economic power to defeat the Zionist state on their own. See, the black working class in South Africa had tremendous power. They could go on strike, and they did. And they used the strike weapon with enormous efficacy, and it crippled the South African economy. Palestinians don't have that economic power. Certainly they don't have the military power, but they don't have the economic power. Israel's always seen to it, that they are very limited. Palestinians have very limited rights as regards labouring in Israel. And when there was a shortage of labour, the Israeli government would bring in Romanian workers or Filipino workers, as they did, quite often in the course of the 1980s and 1990s. So really, now coming to the conclusion, the Palestinians, have fought back, have resisted with great courage, but they need support. They need outside support. They can't do it on their own. They need the support, first and foremost, of their allies, actual and potential allies in the Middle East, among the masses of the Middle East, among the workers and peasants of Egypt and the rest of the Arab and Muslim world. I would say I single out Egypt because Egypt is the most important, the largest and most industrially and economically developed of all the Arab states, that has a working class, that has strong traditions of political and trade union organisation. And in the last 2-3 years, the Egyptian working class, that for years had been a sleeping giant, has begun to awaken. In fact, is engaged in a wave of strikes which Egypt has not seen since the 1940s. So that is one area from which support and from which hope for the Palestinian struggle for liberation must come. The second source of support is ourselves. Ourselves and everybody like us in Europe, North America, Far East, wherever. We can do a lot, especially in this country. It is our duty because Britain, I haven't got time to go into all the history. Britain signed the Balfour Declaration. Lord Balfour, British Foreign Secretary in 1917, was the one who promised the Zionists that Britain would look favourably on the establishment of a Jewish national homeland in Palestine. The British clearly, and Lord Balfour himself was anti-Semitic, but he thought they could use the Jews in the Middle East and a Jewish state to defend the interests of the British Empire. The Suez Canal then belonged to Britain, and a Jewish state would be kind of staging post on the way to India. And British politicians looked on a future Jewish homeland very much as they looked on Ulster, as a Western enclave, in a kind of third world, underdeveloped area, of uncivilized masses, and the Zionist state would be as the first British governor of Jerusalem, was it, after Britain defeated the Turks and expelled the Ottoman armies from the Middle East. And the first British governor of Jerusalem was a man called Sir Ronald Stores, and what he said was, what we need in the Middle East is a little Jewish Ulster. In other words, that the Zionist state would perform the same function, supporting the interests of British imperialism that the Protestant working class was fulfilling in Northern Ireland. And Israel has always played that role, always been a kind of bastion of imperialism. Today, of course, it's not the British but the United States that's important. Anyway, that's a digression. What we need to do is really to involve ourselves in the movement of the so-called BDS movement, boycott, divestment, sanctions, do what we can to persuade and put pressure on universities, colleges, local councils to withdraw any investment they have in Israel, to leaflet supermarkets calling on people not to buy Israeli goods, build up a campaign to stop Britain exporting arms to Israel, or indeed buying arms from Israel, because Israel is quite an important exporter of arms today. We need the academic boycott, and so on and so on. So really there's a lot we can do, and I end on this point. I urge everybody to get involved, to join the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. The Friends of Palestine will do everything they can to support and work for the liberation of the Palestinians. Thank you. Of the Palestinians. Thank you.